Welcome to LTWS Backstage Chronicles, where we take you behind the scenes of the Little Theater of Winston-Salem. I'm your host, Jessica Perry, and today we're diving into a story about friendship, legacy, and the power of words to outlive us all. In this episode, Friendship and Ink, we'll explore how love, loyalty, and storytelling shape the preservation of history, and why the written word can be one of the greatest acts of devotion. We're also so grateful to share that this production is sponsored by Butler and Burke CPAs. I'm joined today by Director Lara Ianni, along with cast members Chad Edwards, who portrays Richard Burbage, and Sir Edward Daring, and Emily Emerson, who plays Alice Heminges. Today, we'll talk about what it means to bring these historical figures to life, the friendships at the heart of the story, and how preserving a legacy can become an act of love. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to LTWS Backstage Chronicles on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. And if you enjoyed today's episode, leave us a review and help us reach new listeners and grow our theater community. Now, let's step into the story and the friendships that helped shape history. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to do a little roundabout so everybody can hear your voices, get to know who's who. Starting with my left, we're going to start with Lara Ianni. I'm so proud that I'm saying that correctly.
You got it. It was so good. Yeah. Hi, I'm Lara. I'm directing the Book of Will.
And to her left.
Hi. I'm Chad Edwards. And I'm playing Richard Burbage and Edward Deering.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm playing Alice Heminges.
So thank you again for being here today. I just want to talk a little bit about the show that we're doing, The Book of Will. Tell us a little bit about what this story is all about.
Sure. So it's based on the true story of the creation of the first folio, which was the first sort of official collection of Shakespeare's work. It was put together by primarily by two friends of his, Henry Condell and John Heminges, who were members of his theater company, actors, managers alongside of him. And after he died, they embarked on this project to collect and publish his works, which might not sound like a lot right now, but at the time, the publishing industry was really in its infancy. So there weren't a lot of regulations. It was definitely kind of the Wild West when it came to rights and that sort of thing. So to put together a book of this magnitude, this size and scale was really quite an undertaking. But we're sure glad they did, because we might not have these incredible plays today if they hadn't. There were a ton of plays written in the late 16th into the early 17th century, and the vast majority of them are lost to us. But we have Shakespeare in large part because of this book.
Could you imagine a world without Romeo and Juliet or Hamlet?
Don't wanna.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. There's an argument to be made that it's one of, if not the most important event in the English language, or at least English literature.
I just think it speaks in volumes to how prolific of a writer he was, that like hundreds and hundreds of years later, we're still telling his stories. They're still relevant.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I always say, it's cliche to say that William Shakespeare was a genius of words, which of course he was, but I think really he was a genius of the human experience. And then in this sort of magical way, translating these really primal experiences, love and loss and grief and revenge, what have you, into poetry that, transcends time. But we wouldn't have them at all if not for the subjects of our play.
So, Chad and Emily, what's your experience with Shakespeare? Have you done it before? And granted, this isn't Shakespeare, but it's Shakespeare adjacent.
Shakespeare. I like that. That's good.
I do like that. I have played Benedict in Much Ado About Nothing, which is one of my favorites.
I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, same.
I think you did. You just forgot about it.
No, I was not.
I had.
Because I remember, I'm like, oh my God, Emily Emerson is in the audience and she's going to see what a fake I am. It was the outdoor amphitheater. Right? Yes.
I did see that one.
See?
Oh, gosh.
Obviously, it wasn't that memorable.
Sorry, Chad.
Oh my gosh. And I put her on the spot too, which I love to do.
I feel terrible.
But yeah, so that, and then I did some, I did some work in college. But I think that's the only Shakespeare I've ever been in.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's amazing.
And I teach it now, so it's funny because when I was a kid, I was a late bloomer in high school in regards to theater. And so I didn't have a lot of experience. And then I went to UNCG, and I remember this, I saw Midsummer Night's Dream. And my perception of Shakespeare was it's all serious. It's all just very, I didn't know enough when I was a junior in high school. And so I saw this production and I came back to my theater teacher and was like, oh my God, it was so amazing because they turned it into a comedy. And so, I was like, this is genius. I mean, I could see Shakespeare like this all the time. I didn't know, that was my frame of reference. And I've come along.
Sweet.
I think that's pretty common, though. People tend to think Shakespeare is heavy and sad and
dramatic,
and stiff and old-fashioned. But it was the popular entertainment of the day. It was
Shakespeare is for the common people. It can also be rough and dirty and fun and frantic.
It's full of dirty
energy,
dirty jokes.
Yes.
And, it's for the groundlings.
That's what I love about it. There's in comedies and stuff, there's so many moments where you can interact with the audience and stuff too. I don't know, this isn't the type of show that lends to interacting with the audience.
No, not directly, but it's definitely something we've talked about. And actually, Chad and I specifically, when he does get to do, he gets to do the most actual Shakespeare text in the show because he is playing
fun,
arguably the greatest Shakespearean actor to ever live, at least in his own estimation, Richard Burbage.
Your character of Richard Burbage.
It's a great character.
It's one of my favorite characters, and honestly, it's kind of I feel like I'm half lying because I literally could say that to just about any person, and I think I have to multiple people. Oh my God, your character's one of my favorite characters.
That just speaks to all these great people, so many of whom were real, which is wild.
They're just written so well. You get to know the person pretty quickly the way it was written, and there's just something that you just fall in love with them. And I'm so excited because this is an amazing cast. So I'm really excited for this production. Sorry, Emily, we didn't get to you about your experience with Shakespeare.
Listening and
You're so patient. You're just be assertive. Is Alice assertive? Alice is assertive.
She is.
Alice
very
takes
much
nothing from nobody. I did some Shakespeare in graduate school. I did Measure for Measure. I did a production of Much Ado with the NC Shakespeare Festival. I played one of Dogberry's Watch. And then most recently, I did A Midsummer Night's Dream, which was directed by Lara a few years ago.
My first show after moving to Winston-Salem.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
And, coming out of the pandemic. So
Yeah.
it
was everybody.
It was
all
a
of
big
us were.
chapter start for a lot of us, I think.
Yeah. No, it was great. And I have always been a Shakespeare fangirl, and I feel very fortunate to be able to tell this story. And I love Lauren Gunderson, the playwright. She is one of my favorites, and I know Chad shares my my love for Lauren Gunderson. But one of the things that I really appreciate about this script is Lauren identifies herself as a feminist playwright, and even though this story centers around Will's two best friends who are men, the women that are in this story are not just sitting back and taking care of the children and sweeping the floor and doing all they do that, but every woman in this play has a huge part in the creation of the folio.
Oh, yes.
They are supporting their husbands. They are
the story could not move forward without their existence.
Absolutely not. And one thing that I feel very fortunate to bring to it is Alice is the one who gives them the idea to come up with the folio. They're making Henry and John and Alice are making a toast, and Alice says something about keeping stories alive, and all of a sudden there's this moment where Henry and John are going, oh, we need to be able to do that. because we don't have a lot of this stuff written down. So I feel very fortunate that I get to assist them in the idea about the folio. I think that's cool.
So what's your relation to Henry and John in this show?
So John Heminges, played wonderfully by Patrick Meehan. John is my father. He is one of the King's men who they run the Globe Theater. He also owns the tap house where a lot of the play takes place. And I run the tap house. So I serve the drinks. I hear the gossip. I kick people out if I need to. I keep order, but I also I can hang with that crowd. And Henry is very much like an uncle to me because he and John, my father, have been friends for so long and they've been so close. And so Alice has been like a theater kid in that way, where she's seen all of these performances of Shakespeare, and she's seen her dad, who used to be a performer and now is like the company manager. But I am very close with both Henry and John, obviously, because he's my dad.
Well, Chad, tell us a little bit about your characters that you're portraying. The right amount to tell us.
Sure. Yeah, I see where you're going with that.
Anyone who comes to see the show and listens to this, they'll know what I was talking about.
Richard Burbage he was probably one of the finest actors of his time, the most well-known Shakespearean actor. When I first got cast, I did a deep dive into Richard Burbage. You can't find a whole lot about him because it's very general. But he was presumed to have been like the idea for Shakespeare's Hamlet. He was written for him. And
what an honor.
I know.
Sorry, just looking.
Wow. Can you imagine being the first people to play and then see Hamlet?
Oh my gosh.
It's just it does talk about that a little bit in the play, and he and Shakespeare were really close, and so Shakespeare wrote a lot of the main titles with Richard Burbage in mind, and so he's bigger than life.
That makes sense why he could not care for anyone that came after him playing the role.
Exactly. He loves
his.
Yes. Mm-hmm. He loves the spotlight. He's just, it's him. I think it's funny because the research that I did, he's kind of a ladies' man, and which is a stretch. So, this acting. So that I think that was been the hardest part of the process for me to really come to identify with. But anyway, he's probably not very faithful to his wife, and he's known to be a ladies' man. So, but just this bigger than life character who I'm just trying to capture on a lot of levels. And Laura has really helped me with that in the rehearsal process. It's just kind of, you don't want to be big all the time. And she knows just when to say, okay, just pull it back. And it just feels right. So I love giving him levels. And it's so much fun to play. So much fun to play.
It's fun to watch, too. I'm glad that I get to be on stage when all of that happens. And it's cool when you, there are moments where you interact with me, or you at least are speaking some of the text to me, that I just think is so cool.
Oh, thank you.
I love being on stage for that moment.
Thank you. And the other character is very small, and I'm not going to say anything about the interpretation of that, but it happens near the end of the play, so that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
This is one of those shows, I haven't really done any acting on the large scale since I started working with the Little Theater of Winston-Salem. And this is one of those shows that really tempted me. I was like, do I want to be in it or do I want to see it? Because I both. How can I do both? I can't do both. And ultimately, wanting to see this show kind of weighed out. And I'm so excited because it's such a wonderful cast. When the cast list came out, I was like, oh, I think you did a wonderful job, Lara.
Thanks. I definitely lost some sleep because we had a huge
insane.
turnout for our auditions, and
Over 50 to 60 people came out to
it was
audition.
close to 60. And, and usually when you audition, you sort of, especially that sort of first round, it's like, all right, well, over here, I'm going to put the people who I just absolutely know I'm not going to use for whatever reason. And here's the maybes, and here's I got to call these people back. And I had no one in that first pile. Like, it was really extraordinary.
Wow.
There was nobody who came in and it was like, well, they can't even speak the words. No, they were. I could have cast the show
a
10
wonderful
different ways.
problem to have.
Yeah, and yet it was not easy. But
I think it speaks volumes for people's love of Shakespeare and his works.
Yeah, and it's it's really having a moment right now. I think with Hamnet, the film coming out, and the Oscars and all that coming up. But it's something. You go back 20 years and it was the same thing with Shakespeare in Love for 30 years. When was that? How old am I? Oh, God. But as much as obviously we all in here love Shakespeare's text, but I think his life and the life around him is also such fertile terrain for historical fiction because, as Chad was saying, like, we don't know a lot concretely about these people. Yeah.
The mysterious genius. So, of course, we want to, know more or make up stuff or just try to build this
and I think
image of
for
who
me,
he was.
because I've definitely been reflecting on that a lot working on this show, and I think there's something to we do feel on some level like we know him so intimately because this text knows us so intimately. So it's like this guy who died 400 years ago can peer into my soul, and I don't even know for sure when he was born or,
My theory is he was a time traveler.
Maybe. I mean, there's a lot of theories around who he was, who he wasn't, who
Maybe
he might
he was
have
one
been.
of the doctors.
I think it seems as reasonable an explanation as anything to me.
I'm just saying. Popped in, popped out. I think we all just blanked at the same time. I took a long pause. No, I've always enjoyed Shakespeare. It's been one of my first introductions to theater was like Hamlet, a professional production of Hamlet, which I just fell in love immediately. And I think it's also like I recently took a stab at writing a sonnet, and I wanted to write it in the exact format, 14 lines and A B C D, how it goes, and like iambic pentameter, da 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 da. And it's so difficult to do. It was difficult to keep within the rhyme without sounding cheesy, but also still keeping the meaning of what you're trying to say. And this guy did this for how many acts of several plays, and not just the ones we have, but as you said, like the ones that are missing. And I'm like, how? I keep thinking back to Hamlet, like, why do you write like you're running out of time? Because that's just like, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, and this probably is. I mean, it's definitely not everything that he wrote. Certainly, we know of a few titles that are definitely lost, but there are probably more. But yeah, I mean, it's extraordinary. I always say that. Working on a Shakespeare show, at least one in verse, to me is a lot more like reading a musical score than reading straight text.
Because it's very lyrical.
Yeah, well, and we've talked about this a bit as I cast, but that structure that you're talking about in that verse, and whether it's very, very, regular and sticking to the meter and the quote unquote rules, or where he chooses to break those rules. And it's something really interesting about the folio is, if you most of the texts we tend to work from now are modern edits that have been sort of cleaned up because things like punctuation and spelling were not codified when the book was created. So you will have the same word spelled 3 different ways, or you will have a line where instead of 10 syllables, there's suddenly 16. And, there's a lot of weird capitalizations, punctuations, and scholars will argue about the meaning of that. But the way I've been trained and what I love to think of it is this sort of translation of not only the text, but the performances of the time. So if we see, oh my gosh, suddenly at the end of Romeo's speech, instead of saying, it is my lady, oh, it is my love, oh, that she knew she were, if that's all in one line, it suddenly becomes this super long line of, it is my lady, oh, it is my love, oh, that she knew she were. That's telling us something about how somebody, maybe Richard Burbage, delivered it 400 years ago, or how the playwright intended it to be delivered.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember reading somewhere that like also you notice like when it breaks from that structure, it could be like with a specific type of character, like the common character or the clown character or something. Someone with less education, it would break that iambic pentameter rule.
Sure. I mean, there's a million ways. I mean, talk about Hamlet, to be or not to be. That is the question. There's 11 syllables in that line, which is also known as a feminine ending for those Shakespeare scholars out there. But we have this very rather regular da 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 da, and all of a sudden there's this little hiccup at the end. But of course there is, because he's asking a question, and he's actually asking the question of life. So there's little things like that. There's characters who will be speaking in prose and when everyone else is in verse, and vice versa. There's characters who rhyme all the time and characters who don't, or characters who, Beatrice and Benedict are mostly speaking in prose, except when they fall in love and suddenly their soliloquies are in verse, and it's almost like bursting into song. So there's just I could go on for hours that we don't have about all this stuff.
We can nerd out about Shakespeare for forever. And something you said reminded me. Has any of y'all seen this YouTube video? I think it's called like the most British video ever, but it's every character who played Hamlet coming on stage. You've got Sir Ian McKellen. You've got Dame Judi Dench, and other actors whose names I can't recall off the top of my dome.
I think they might have done that for the anniversary of the Folio a couple of years back.
Interesting. So,
I think.
But they come out and they're all emphasizing a different word in that delivery of to be or not to be. And that's the thing I love about Shakespeare as well, is honestly, you could say it any way. It's kind of what it means to the actor, because as long as the actor understands what they're saying, like Shakespeare is so much easy to understand. I think it's you can also be really easy. You can tell when someone's just reading the lines pretty because they think, that's just what I need to do Shakespeare. But like, no, you really need to understand what you're saying, because it's how you inflect certain things. You can see a tone. I was telling my son about this. It's like, it's like watching a Spanish soap opera. You may have no idea what they're saying, like language-wise, but you can tell by their tone and their body language and their inflections. You know what's happening. Watch it long enough, you know what's going on. And it's kind of like Shakespeare. If the actor knows what they mean and what they say, the person sitting is going to understand what's happening.
Absolutely. And if that actor or director or teacher, whoever they're working with, knows a little bit about how to read that text or read the folio text, then the text is helping you inform that choice as an actor, that performance, and to me it feels a little bit like the characters of this play are reaching out to us through the centuries to say, yeah, play it this way.
Because Shakespeare, he'll also write little things in there, like, and he'll put antithesis of stuff. So he'll go big and then he'll go low, and like the sun and then the night. Like he likes to throw those in there.
Yeah, the Elizabethans loved rhetoric, so logic, and you see a lot of that in the text. He likes to build these ladders of sort of, this leads to this, leads to this, leads to this, or like you said, or this balance with that balance was really big for them as well. So, okay, I think we nerded out enough. We've left Chad and Emily just sitting over there. So, welcome back, guys. Let's break away from that for a moment and just talk about like what's it's been like in rehearsals, getting to work with the other cast members, building relationships between your characters and each other. Anything you want to say?
It's been fun because I love working with like people I've never worked with, and then there's people that I trust so there's a mixture of that, which is I just love that, and just learning to trust other people. It's been like Lara is more of an actor's director. She lets you kind of play with things, and that's been really nice. And just she, she gets you out there, and then you discover kind of your own discoveries, and then she will hone it in eventually. But as an actor, I love to work that way. But there are different styles of directors that I love, but this is just, it seemed more like it's not work, it's play.
I mean, that's why we do theater, right?
Right.
To play. I mean, why else would grown adults come and volunteer their time without pay to do this? Because it's fun. Like I say that all the time. If it's not fun, why are we doing it? Mm-hmm. And that's why I really appreciate directors who allow that. I mean, yes, you want to stay on top of your work. You want to get your lines. You don't want to waste time. But
guess what? The work of actors is play.
And that's when, like, some of the very
secret.
best things come about when you allow them to play. I mean, I'm sure there's been lots of discoveries within the rehearsal process, like, ooh, keep that, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it keeps everything very organic. And like nothing is going to be, and as it should be in theater, nothing's going to be the same. And it's just been lovely. Like I've worked with Emily now. I've never worked with Emily up until, and we always were like, we have to work together. And so last year we did Moriarty together, and now we're in another show together.
We're making up for lost time.
We are. But it is an absolutely wonderful, strong cast of people that are new to me and people that, it's great. And they're all giving their best effort. I mean, everybody's all in. And that's what I love about it.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Save it for the show. Give us a couple weeks.
Oh, don't worry. There'll be plenty at the show too. I've read the script multiple times, and it makes me like laugh and sob like every time. So just so you know, we'll provide some tissues for you guys, but bring some. Like you'll want them. If you love to feel your feelings, like come and see this show. I have a friend that was talking about his wife is a mental health therapist, and like one of her things she's always talking about and advocating for is like feeling your feelings. I'm like, she's going to love this show. He'll be doing something and she'll be in the room crying, and he's like, "What's wrong with why do you watch that?" She's like, "I like to feel my feelings." Come see this show. If that sounds like you, come and see this show. You will not regret it. It opens March 20th and runs through the 29th at Haynes Brands Theater. And you can get tickets online at LTWS.org. Or you can call our box office at 336-725-4001. You do not want to miss this show. Now, back to our regular scheduled programming. So, Emily, what have you enjoyed most during the rehearsal process?
Well, like Chad said, I haven't worked with very many of the people that are in this cast, so it's really great to work with people that I have never met before or have never worked with before. That's always fun, just to get to know people. I also I'm also a Shakespeare fangirl, and I love all of the stories about him and the speculations of what his life was like and what his work was like. And so I just think this is such a beautiful, funny story about his two best friends coming together and honoring their friend in this way. And the idea that they know that he was a genius and they know the power of his work, and they worked so hard and they had to work quickly, but they wanted to get all of it put together, because if not, if they weren't able to do that, it would all be lost. We would have nothing from Shakespeare. We wouldn't know who he was. And so it's a lovely story about friendship and transcending time and death, and just the love that you have for your friends, and wanting to honor them in a very special and specific, poignant way.
That's beautiful. What I love, so we partnered with Bookmarks and Aperture to give you 3 different types of experiences of Shakespeare. And so if you read the book Hamnet or you saw the movie, that kind of gives you the beginnings of Shakespeare. the start of Shakespeare. And if you come and see the Book of Will, it'll be a nice little capstone, so you'll see how it ends. So you can witness the beginning, experience the end, and get the full life of Shakespeare. And it sounds like that there's a lot of really incredibly talented actors who are cast in this production, which I think as an actor is what also makes it so much fun when you're working with people who are like at the height of their abilities, and that just brings you up as well, and everybody's just bringing everybody else up. Am I right?
100%.
I mean,
You're going to be at the top of your game.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, just thinking about David and Patrick, who play Henry and John, and just the heavy lift that this show is for them, because they almost never leave the stage and they are almost always talking.
Oh, wow.
I think there's
Lots of
one
words.
scene that they're not in for like 2 minutes.
And
That's
just
a
like
lot.
the work that these two men are putting in and coming in with ideas, and it's incredible to watch them work, because they are carrying a lot of this show. So it's really cool. And I've never worked with either one of them before. So this is a really great introduction to both of them, because they're really they're very inspirational and very, they definitely make me want to up my game. Yeah.
That's always fun. That's how you know it's going to be a good show. Like the story is beautiful. The actors are incredible. I've seen the scale of the set, the model of the sketch. It's
great.
Set. and the costumes are going to be incredible. Just from the previews of what could be at promotional shoots, I'm really. This is going to be an all around amazing production.
I think. Well, it's a love letter to theater. You know, it's about actors and theater makers, because of course, you know, I mean, Shakespeare would have called himself an actor and a poet. There wasn't any such thing as a director, but they kind of did everything too, which you know, we're a little more compartmentalized now, but we have this incredible team in the rehearsal room with us, with our cast and my amazing stage managers. And then we have our whole production team with these incredible designers. And then we have volunteers coming in who are going to, you know, putting time in the shop and will, you know, help us with everything once the show goes up in terms of ushers and blah, blah, you know. Theater is a community activity, and it was in 1623, and it is now.
And speaking of like community, if y'all could just share a little bit, like, what do you do when you're not doing this? Like, what's your day job? What's your life like? Because I want people to understand, like, we are working with community members. These are volunteers. We're not a professional a company. We're a community theater, and so these people take time out of their schedules, and they do this for the love of doing this and for the experiences of having a community, building friendships, and getting to tell these beautiful stories. So what do you do when you're not doing this?
More of this. No, I am a professional actor and musician. I work at Wake Forest at the theater department doing some administrative stuff there. I'm also a theatrical fight director, so I teach and choreograph violence for the stage.
Yes.
In between, you know, trying to get people to cast me in things. What else do I do? I guess that's mostly it.
You're fully immersed in art and theater.
I try to be.
I love it.
And then I go home and pass out.
Your best life.
Most days.
Yes, I'm looking
me?
at you. That's right. I'm looking at you.
I am a high school theater teacher. So, yeah, I bring my work to the evenings. Now I have to put away my director cap and then just come in and...
Is that easy or difficult?
Actually, it's not as hard as you would think. It's just, and it's fun because my kids will come see the show. My students will come see the show. Oh. And it keeps me alive, and it keeps me churning out the work, the inspiration, and they can relate to it and go, wow, you know, I see this there. or you did that, and I get it now. So that's really cool to be on the other end of that. But yeah, I'm immersed in theater, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm excited for them to see this show.
I think it's really important to have your students see you as a teacher or as a professor, see your work and see you in the practice of what you're teaching them. I think it's really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love that you invite your students and that they come to see you and support you, but also like they're watching your work. And
I feel like it'll give them
learning from you in that way.
Yeah, more respect for what you are teaching because, like, well, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Kindness sometimes.
Well, they are still teenagers, so
Yeah. But that is the really, really cool part about my job. And I've been teaching for 24 years.
oh,
And yeah, it never gets old.
that's wonderful.
That says something about your teaching abilities too, that your students want to come and support you.
Absolutely.
They love you in that way and they want to like be supportive of you. That's really great.
I'm very blessed.
Oh,
I think I got good kids.
I think most of us have like that theater teacher out there somewhere that like really like made an impact on our lives. My high school theater teacher, she'll still send me like memes and things like that. Like, I love that.
I didn't have that relationship. It's okay. It was 100 years ago. But I have a lot of friends who are high school theater teachers, and it's very inspiring, and it's very comforting. Maybe is the right word, that students will go and support their teachers and watch them work and learn from them in that way.
Like Danny also, who was in Moriarty with you too.
Yeah, yeah. And being able to teach in that way by doing, I think, is really important because, you know, it's one thing to stand in front of a class and like talk about acting. It's another thing to put it into practice, and
Yes.
being able to
It's practicing
see
what you
your
preach.
teacher do that. Like I think that's so cool.
And I don't think it's an accident that we have a number of teachers in this cast, either currently
that's
teaching
true.
or retired teachers or people who have taught and now do something else. But teachers all.
So Emily, what do you do?
I'm a freelance writer. So Shakespeare is...
That makes a lot of
like,
sense.
he's kind of the GOAT for me in the language of the kids. I don't know, maybe that's expired now.
No,
but,
it hasn't.
Yeah, okay, great.
I'm keeping it going.
Excellent. Me too, apparently. But I write freelance. I'm also a playwright, and so I have
And speaking of, she's going to be writing our adaptation for Ernest in our 92nd season of Becoming. So come and see the Book of Wills, see how amazing she is on stage, and then come and see Ernest and see how amazing she is at writing.
Thank you. That's lovely. I'm so excited about that. And I'm very grateful that Little Theater is trusting me with this massive undertaking. And I feel really grateful. I think maybe you and I were talking, Chad, about being in 2 shows in one season is like, it's so special. It's such an honor. And I feel very lucky to be able to say that and to be able to have these experiences and I feel like we are making up for lost time.
We
and like
are.
in this one we get to like interact a little bit more because I feel like in Moriarty we really didn't.
No, we had that one moment, and that was about it.
Yeah, it was like one hot second, but then we get a little bit more in this play, so that's nice.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share, anything you'd like to add about this production or cast or rehearsals, anything you want people to take away when they come and see this show?
We've been talking about how we all self-identify as, Shakespeare nerds and fangirls and whatnot. But I also want to put it out there that if you know nothing about Shakespeare or you don't care about Shakespeare,
Yes.
this is still a play for you because it is at once this really specific historical moment that we're representing, but much like Shakespeare's plays, it's so much more universal than that. So if you
Right.
have had a friend, if you've lost someone, if you've remembered someone, if you have a piece of art, it could be, a comic book, a video game, a play, a movie that has moved you and meant something to you, then this play is about you too.
Yes, this play will make you feel things, I think. And one thing I appreciate about Lara Gunderson that she included in this, so this show does have a lot of moments that'll punch you right in the heart and really big, deep feelings. She adds levity in there with these nod to the clown characters that Shakespeare likes to include in his dramas. And I remember reading it. I'm like, oh, I love that. I love that that's in there. And she does it so well.
We've been talking about the Muppets a lot in rehearsal. And who in certain scenes, they're the Muppets and you're Michael Caine in Muppet Christmas Carol. You're the one human. So we're trying to bring our best Muppet energy as well, alongside the really moving, thoughts about legacy and grief and love, but also big Muppet energy.
Right. This show is equally funny as well. It has its moments. It will make you feel things, but you're not going to be there it's not super heavy. You're not going to walk out of it going, oh.
And I think even the moments of grief, and when we talk about grief, ultimately are about uplift, and it's about how we remember people we're mourning and how they live on in us and their work. It's not. And I loved Hamnet, but it's not as punishing as Hamnet. So
No. Oh my gosh. When you did the talk back after the movie, I was like, how is she going to go straight from, because I was like, oh,
I was
sitting there and I was like,
before I could talk.
Right.
Laura and I went to see it together, and we were just in the back row at Aperture, just sobbing,
oh my
ugly
gosh.
crying.
I don't know if I've ever been in a movie theater with that much just audible sobbing.
Yeah.
It was really something.
Oh my God.
And it was great, but Book of Wells not that, I promise.
No.
There is a lot of humanity to this piece.
Yes.
It is just the human experience, so anyone can identify with this show.
I love
latch
that.
onto something.
I love that. Thank you for saying that.
Mm-hmm. Welcome.
Anything you'd like to add, Emily? Oh, I keep putting her on the spot.
No, that's okay. That's all right. Yeah, it's a great show. I love working on it. I think everyone's really going to have an enjoyable time at the theater. I get to play a mouthy broad, which I always appreciate. And yeah, it's gonna be a great time.
Well, if there's nothing else to add, alrighty. Well, that is all for today's episode of LTWS Backstage Chronicles. We hope you enjoyed this look at how friendship, loyalty, and storytelling intertwine to preserve something far greater than any one life. A heartfelt thank you to Lara, Chad, and Emily for sharing their insight, artistry, and passion for this powerful production. And again, a special thank you to Butler & Burke CPAs for sponsoring the Book of Will and supporting the arts in our community. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share the podcast with your fellow theater lovers. You can find LTWS Backstage Chronicles on all major streaming platforms and visit us, online. I need to enunciate. That's one thing Shakespeare always says. Enunciate, enunciate, enunciate.
I've been giving that note to my actors of late.
Visit us online at ltofws.org for tickets, show information, and upcoming events. And stay tuned for our next episode as we continue exploring the stories and people that make this season unforgettable. Until next time, I'm Jessica Perry, and thank you for joining us at the Little Theater of Winston-Salem. A special thanks, as always, to our 91st media sponsors, Such and Such Media, for helping us tell these stories. We couldn't do it without them. And as always, we'll see you at the theater. The views and opinions of this podcast are those of the contributor and not necessarily those of our distributors and hosting company. This podcast is copyrighted. Use of this podcast without express permission may result in alien blood-sucking plants taking over the world. You have been warned.